In this podcast episode, Mel Robbins introduces Dr. Zack Bush, a triple board certified medical doctor who has spent much of his career working with people at the end of their lives. Dr. Bush is there to share wisdom and lessons from what he calls the science of the soul, how death, fear, regrets of the dying, and near death experiences can profoundly shape one's life. Dr. Bush shares a powerful personal story of his own near death experience. In 2010, while working in academia and feeling trapped and depressed in his career, he had an accident during a snowstorm. While driving to the hospital, he passed out and woke up in his car in a river, feeling an overwhelming sense of peace and wholeness. He describes feeling reborn, free of fear, guilt, and shame, a state he hadn't experienced since early childhood. Though he initially thought he might have died, Dr. Bush soon realized he was still alive. A state trooper found him and showed him the incredible path his car had taken, drifting off the highway, jumping an embankment, driving along a steep slope, and ending up in the river without hitting any trees. This unexplainable event shook Dr. Bush's logical mindset and opened him up to experiences beyond his usual mental constructs. Dr. Bush explains that near-death experiences offer a glimpse of our inherent wholeness and connection to the universe. He emphasizes that we are born whole and die whole. It's only our perception in between that makes us feel incomplete. Near-death experiences allow people to feel what it's like to be whole again, accessing information and awareness beyond the limitations of the mind. He describes how young children naturally exist in this state of wholeness and connection until around age 2, when they start to develop a sense of separateness. This transition explains the emotional challenges of the terrible twos as children grapple with a new, disconnected reality. Dr. Bush encourages listeners to recognize moments of wholeness in their own lives, like the profound connection felt in nature during significant life events or in interactions with children. Drawing from his extensive experience as a hospice doctor, Dr. Bush shares insights on how people approach death. Contrary to common belief, he finds that many people become more peaceful as they near death, rather than more afraid. He attributes fear of death to the feeling of incompleteness that many carry throughout life. Dr. Bush emphasizes that this fear can be alleviated by reconnecting with oneself and finding meaning in life. The key, he suggests, is moving from trying to make others proud to being proud of oneself, and ultimately realizing that one's inherent value exists beyond any achievements or pride. Dr. Bush presents a profound perspective on death, describing it as a rebirth rather than an ending. He compares it to the experience of twins in the womb, with one being born first and seemingly disappearing, only to enter a beautiful new world. He reminds listeners that energy cannot be created or destroyed, and that the soul continues its journey in new forms. He encourages people to seek moments of wholeness in their daily lives through practices like breathwork, spending time in nature, or engaging in cultural traditions that foster connection. Dr. Bush stresses that we are whole and divine from our first breath to our last, regardless of our actions or accomplishments in between. When asked about common regrets of the dying, Dr. Bush identifies the primary regret as having spent life performing rather than truly being oneself. He says many people realize at the end of life that they are whole and beautiful beings and regret not having known and lived from this truth earlier. To live a better life, Dr. Bush advises recognizing one's inherent wholeness and letting go of the need to perform or seek completion through others. He emphasizes the importance of allowing oneself to be seen by nature, as trees and the cosmos can perceive our true whole selves in a way that other humans cannot. Dr. Bush offers practical suggestions for experiencing wholeness in daily life. He recommends spending time in nature, particularly lying under a tree and allowing oneself to be seen by the natural world. He also mentions breathwork, cold plunges, and other practices that can help people connect with their inherent wholeness.